Well, good morning, everybody. This is Carpo, and I'm coming to make another video. This will be my answer to the Q&A video. I'm so stoked that I did that because it's really, at first I thought, what kind of questions what could people possibly have? And I found some fascinating ones. So, I wouldn't say, I guess, fascinating, but rather questions that allow me to open up some dialogue about things that I ordinarily wouldn't talk about, or things that make me think about myself and why I think the things I do or believe the things I do. And so I'm just going to go ahead and read down the list and do my best to answer every one of them here. Let's make sure I got enough time on my camera there. Looks like I'm good. Okay, so this is in no particular order because I'm doing it on the on the Kindle, so sometimes it mixes up the orders with this YouTube app on here. So of course, the first one on there is from BrethrenFudge, and BrethrenFudge. My bad. This is several questions in one, so I'll do my best to answer them. Man, have you ever had any strange, weird encounters with people? I tried to think of an answer to that one, and I just couldn't. Every encounter that I have with people is weird. Just being human is weird. I have met some strange people in my day, but nothing that I could set outside for an example or really say, yes, these people were really strange. So I guess, yeah, I've had weird encounters with people all the time, but what I determine to be weird is my subjective opinion. If I was a Christian coming into an atheist community, they may have views that were weird to me, and vice versa. So knowing that I'm in the area I live with so many different thinking, so many different thought patterns and so many different ideas, as well as the exposure to the internet and everything else, it's allowed me to see that really there aren't any strange encounters, that life is just strange, if that makes sense. Do you think you could ever do a tour of your garage corner room? I'll do that at the end of this video. How about that? It's nothing impressive, so I'm a pack rat type person. I'm not a hoarder by any means, but I have many collections and things, so this is just a packed in room. But I'll do one at the end of the video, so I don't break my stride here. Are you a Tool fan? I've been asked this actually twice in the comments here, and several times before, which I find interesting, how many people ask me that. I used to listen to Tool back in about the late 90s. I was a fan of Lateralis and Undertow and Anima, if that's how it's pronounced. But I was never a Tool fan. I never went to see a show. I never actually bought an album. I think I bought one. But it was just something I listened to. To be honest, Tool was a little bit too dark for my taste. And they're not dark. I don't mean to say that they sing about dark things. I think that Tool is one of the most phenomenal rock bands that was way underrated for the quality of their music. But I just wasn't exposed to it as much, so it didn't become one of my regular listening things. And just it's just a little drags out a little bit for me on some songs, so I just kind of it's just been something I do enjoy, but not a big fan as far as some of the other bands I am. Have you ever experienced a bad trip? Yes. Back in about 96. No, it's about 94 actually. Back then there was a lot of acid around, and I had taken acid several times. And I went to 7-Eleven one night, and there was a guy working I knew, and he said he had some doses. And he said he had, it was called Felix the Cat. And he told me, he said, I'll sell you 6 for 10. And back then they were about, usually 3 for 10 was the going rate. So I said 6 for 10, that's like half price of normal. He's like, well, don't assume that means they're weak. He's like, don't take more than one, trust me. And the novice I went home, I took one, and took an hour and a half later, I took 2 more. And then shortly after that, I took the other 3. So I took all 6. And I've taken 6 hits of acid before and since then, and nothing compared to that trip, because I was by myself in the living room. Basically what I did was, I looked up at the ceiling, was just right there in my face. Everything was just a swirling mess. I closed my eyes, and I just prayed for it to end, and waited until sunrise. And I tried to turn on the TV, but it was as if the TV was coming out of my mind, and I won't try to describe the trip, but yes, I've had a bad trip. and it was due to taking too much and being by myself with no reassurance, improper set and setting, and I knew that, so I was the one who screwed it up. Have you ever been to any art galleries or museums? Actually, no, I haven't. I've always wanted to go to a museum, but I just haven't been. Are you a fan of Keith Haring, one of my favorite artists? I do not know Keith Haring. I've never even heard of him. What do you think of fishing and hunting? I have no qualms with fishing and hunting. I think that if hunting is done respectfully, then let's just put it this way. If you're out killing for the sport, then you do not have my vote. If you're out killing animals just for the sake of saying you killed an animal, I think that that's pretty ridiculous in my opinion. If you're fishing for trophy fish, then that's pretty ridiculous in my opinion too. But if you go out every year and you hunt, you get a deer for your yearly food. I love to go salmon fishing. I love fishing. I don't like beating the shit out of the fish and cutting him open, but that's part of life. And I don't play the vegetarian game. Everything eats everything, and I don't, I have totally separate views on that, which I won't even get into. Have you ever been shroom hunting before? Yeah, I've actually only been psychedelic shroom picking though one time, and that was at the coast. We were picking azurescens, the most potent mushrooms, and they only grow here on the west coast of the U.S. So, yeah, we found some. They're potent, and that was the only time I've actually been picking. Been wanting to go back, just don't have the time. Have you ever thought of sharing any stories here on YouTube? I have shared a few stories here and there, but I always have this opinion that nobody really gives a shit about my personal life, so there's no reason for me to actually even get into it. What do you think of the journey you've been on since birth? And were you always fascinated with everything? I don't know what to think of this journey since birth, because I only have my subjective opinion. I have no idea. I don't know how I could possibly try to sum up or compare it to anybody else's experience. I think it's fascinating. I think that my growth in my life has been moving towards finding comfort, yet still being educated. The more you learn about things, sometimes the more distressed you can become, because you start to see things for what they really are. But I promise, if you keep researching and you keep learning, rather than closing off to it, then everything comes full circle and you realize everything's the way it is because that's the way it is. It doesn't mean you have to be complacent or say, hey, that it is what it is, because sometimes things can be changed, but you start to see that the journey is to grow and to learn. So, I'm just going to go ahead and leave this as one video because it's already 8 minutes long and I've answered one guy and I have several questions to go and not enough space on the camera, so I'm going to erase a couple of videos and then come back to do a second video with the rest of the questions. So I hope that answers your questions, BrethrenFudge.